Welcome to the Honest Recruiter podcast, powered by MRL Consulting Group, the no-filter podcast about working in the recruitment industry. Hear about real-life consultants and business owners talking about everything recruitment, leaving out zero detail. If you already work in recruitment or are thinking about working in recruitment, sit back and enjoy the ride. Hi everyone, and welcome to our very first Honest Recruiter podcast. It's a fairly sunny day here in Brighton, and we're here to talk about all things recruitment. So we know that the recruitment industry is fundamentally a sales role. The only difference is that our people, they are the product. So being in a highly pressured environment like this can be challenging, and it comes with its lows, but as well as that, it comes with absolute highs. So on today's podcast, we've got Harley Lorence, our managing consultant here at MRL. Welcome, Harley.
Thanks for having me, Billy. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm amazed that you chose me, if I'm honest, but still, we'll see how it goes.
So instead of me giving you a nice, big, flashy intro, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about you?
Okay, so, I joined MRL 6 or 7 years ago now. I had a predominantly kind of telesales focused background, then like an inside sales, phone bashing kind of sales role. Joined here as a consultant, kind of got to grips with the market, had never really done recruitment before, knew a very small amount about it, but kind of, grew and learn as I went. Fast forward a couple of years, kind of getting your feet under the table, learning what it is you're actually doing, because I didn't really have a clue what kind of recruitment actually was when I joined. Was relatively successful, a few really strong years, and kind of picked up more and more responsibility for teams, other people, coaching, training, mentoring, that kind of stuff, up to kind of where we are now, and managing a team of 10 with kind of decent performance and some good growth. So yeah, it's been really fun, but that's kind of a little bit about my background today. A teaser, yeah.
So, okay, a good place to start then. Why did you get into recruitment? Well, what made you get into recruitment?
I was in a telesales role. I was relatively good at it, and the kind of on the surface answer was, oh yeah, I wanted to earn more money. Like, yeah, I was told that you could earn a lot more money in recruitment. It was essentially telesales, just with a bigger commission attached to it, which is true. And then when I actually kind of thought about it, because when I got the offer, I was like thinking about it. I was thinking, well, you can actually help people.
Yeah.
Back I was selling like insurance and warranties and stuff like that before, and you're not really helping people doing that. You're helping a business, sell a product. Here, you're helping people, you're changing people's lives, you're helping people's careers, and that, aside from obviously the decent commission checks and high earning potential, is kind of what appealed to me there. Yeah.
Why do you think it has such a bad name, recruitment?
I think honestly because there's such a low barrier to entry. Like,
I read something the other day, and it's just below recruitment people are salespeople.
No, don't say that.
And then it was car salesmen.
No, they're the worst. Where I want to know where estate agents are on that, on that scale. I want to know where they are. No, seriously, I think it's because it's got such a low barrier to entry, and there are so many people which kind of who fall into recruitment. That you don't go and study a university degree going, I'm going to become a recruiter, like you would do a doctor or a lawyer or something along those lines, which is weird because you can earn a lot more than them, but that's a separate point.
That's another podcast.
That's a whole nother podcast. It's I think a lot of people who come into recruitment don't really know what to do. There are a few people who get into it for kind of the right reasons, and there are a large percentage of people, I think, who get into it because they don't really know what else to do. And so I think that creates an industry of people who, they're relatively transient. You see so many people come into recruitment and then 6 months, a year later, something like that, they left recruitment. It's not for them. Now that is, that's not a small number of people by any means. There are literally thousands and thousands of recruitment companies in the UK alone.
Is that 4,000 or something ridiculous?
No, like 35, 40,000. I mean, you hear like all of these numbers.
It might have been like this year. It might be
like 5,000 new a year
or
or something like that, which is like a crazy number. Now, the majority of these are like, less than 5 employees, 1 and 2 man bands, recruiting from your bedroom kind of setup. Fine. But the majority of it, I think, is because like a lot of companies out there, they don't train their staff. I think a lot of them, where a lot of recruitment markets are very, very competitive, if you look at kind of the mainstream things like, finance, HR, legal, these kinds of things, there are literally thousands of agencies all competing for the same jobs. It kind of breeds a culture, or can breed a culture of relatively underhanded tactics in order to get jobs on, or get candidates in and things like that. And I just think a culmination of those and a lack of training, a lack of direction, and in some cases a kind of boiler room style environment, Wolf of Wall Street-esque.
The cane.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly that kind of stuff. 1,000 calls a day or you don't go home, kind of. That kind of rubbish. I think that can breed a really, really bad experience for both like candidates dealing with recruiters like that, and also hiring managers or contacts that you deal with. So I think, but then you also look at the other side of it, where there are so many people out there, both candidates and contacts, or hiring managers, who they absolutely love the recruiters that they work with. They're like really great friends, and we see loads of this in the contract markets, where a lot of the contract recruiters, they stay really, really close to their candidates, and their candidates, like, they're actually their mates. It's not like, oh, I'm going to buddy up with you and be nice because you earn me some money. It's like, no, we go out for a beer and they talk the industry, and
well, it's like building relationships.
Yeah, it's really building a relationship. So, yeah.
Okay, so today's topic is about the highs and lows of recruitment. So you've obviously worked your way through the ranks at MRL. So when was the first time you thought, wow, I'm actually pretty good at this?
Yeah, still haven't.
Amazing.
No. When I joined, there was a number of people in the business who I was just like, I felt massively out of my depth. Okay, when I joined, it was like, oh my God, these people are, look at them, like, hear them on the phone, like, Jesus, look, like,
how can I do the same thing?
How on earth? I'm never going to be able to do that, like, and there's almost, obviously, that, like, self-doubt and things like that which creep in, and then you just kind of get on with it, get your head down, and, just work as hard as you possibly can. It was when a couple of those people had come to me afterwards, completely off the cuff, and just been like, you sound really great on the phone, or that was a brilliant call, or like, well done on that deal, or something like that. Oh, that was a great fee, and then you kind of go, what? Like, you're actually telling me, like, wow, like, hang on, am I actually all right at this, or like, you kind of, the first couple of times you're like, oh, I was just lucky, it was lucky, and then you're like, no, actually, like, perhaps it could be all right at that. But it was probably like a year and a half in.
Oh wow.
Year and a half in.
So it's like through the trenches to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to be. You don't really know what you're doing for like the first year. Like,
I think a lot of people expect that if they've got mates or friends that do recruitment, and
it's a shortcut, isn't it?
And they're earning all this cash, they're like, well, I'll just come and do it.
Yeah,
Like,
just
in
come
3
do
months,
it.
I'll
3 months later, you won't, mate. Yeah.
It's like, it's not like that.
If only, eh?
So consultants, okay, that leads lovely on to people talk about like the incredible pay packets they get, and however, I think MRL is a very different culture. We don't have people who are actively just flashy about what they've got, or they talk about a new Rolex they bought. We don't get that here, like, at all, and people aren't like that. And how did it feel when, like, you first like got that paycheck and went, shit, this is a lot of money, like, and this is from something that I've done?
Really weird, really, really weird. I didn't disbelieve it by any means. I mean, David, you know, the CEO, he's a straight up guy. He's honest, you know, he's reliable. He's a man of his word, you know. So there's no issue there. But I almost didn't believe it, like until that payday, until it ends up and I remember I was like hurriedly checking my balance on the morning, like
hello Barclays, you've made a mistake.
Yeah, literally, like what, you know, and you kind of that this is. You know that this commission's coming, you know that the person started, you know that the invoice has been paid, you know all this kind of stuff. But then actually going, holy shit, you know, I've just earned like 5 or 6 grand in commission off of this. And you go, oh wow, just got to do it loads more times now and then,
but
then
people
we'll be
might
all right.
be listening to this and go, 5-6 grand in commission, like that's like 4 months paychecks for me. Like, I think when you're and you don't know, people could be listening who have never done recruitment before, or people in recruitment and go, yeah, that's pretty standard. But how do you demonstrate that with hard work you can actually achieve that kind of money, can't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when, like, I guess a bit more now in my position now, I've had the conversation with a number of more junior consultants on, you know, in the business who we're training up and who we're growing through. And one thing that I've said to a lot of them is like, right, let's get your first 10 grand paycheck, right? And then they're like, you know, what? Like,
yeah, that's unreal.
Come on.
Yeah,
and I'm like, no. You know, there's a couple of examples, you know, sitting out there now of guys where I've been like, right, let's get your first 10k paycheck. And they're like, yeah, all right, whatever. And then, you know, you don't mention it again, and then in a few months' time, that, you know, you've helped them, and they've put in a few good deals and things like that, and then they go. I remember one of the guys come up to me in the night, and he goes, "I'm gonna get that paycheck, like that thing that we talked about, like I'm actually gonna get that." And I was like, "Yeah, I know, like I know what deals you've been doing, I know where you're tracking on these kind of things." And
but that must be a high for you. You talk about highs and lows, like to have people you manage go, you know, I'm gonna earn this much money, like this is and because they feel amazing because they're like, I've now got this, or it's debt they're going to pay off, or it's student loans, or whatever, isn't it?
It's literally replaying the exact feeling that I got when I realised I was going to get my first 10k paycheck, or, you know, like whatever it was. And then, like, it sounds a bit silly, but it kind of becomes a game after that. Yeah. Like, can I do a 15 grand one? Like, or maybe 20? Like, can we do that?
In any sales role, gamification is so important. Even like with your friends in the office, like, I'm going to make more calls on you today, or like, because that makes the day exciting. It makes it more buzzy.
If you came into the office in the morning and there was a boss sitting behind you or beside you going, right, you've got to make 200 calls today. Yeah. How demotivational is that? Like, it's never great to hear that. Some people, you know, like water off duck's back, they'll just go, yeah, all right, well, I'll just bash the phone and it'll be okay. And, you know, some people are like that, different personality profiles, etc. But then if you sit 2 people next to each other and you say, right, you 2 are in a head-to-head, and there was a fantastic example of that actually recently here, where there was a couple of guys, they were trying a couple of new things, they'd put together these like lists, and they were doing like sprints where they're sprinting through the list to try and speak to all these people. And they were just battling each other. You know, they weren't just trying to dial numbers, they were trying to get as much out as they could out the back of it. And, you know, they were trying to speak to all these hiring managers or speak to all these candidates. And we don't necessarily track KPIs and things like that closely here, but we do have a reporting mechanism for them. And I remember like looking at the stats after that and just being like, you know, compared to a normal day when you weren't doing this, your activity is like twice as what it should be. And it makes
Joe Bloggs and Susan at the back go, I want to do this too.
Yeah.
It G's up everyone else, doesn't it?
Well, that's it. And, you know, like, it's difficult to be the first one to make a call every day. You know, like, there's a load of stuff you've got to do, but, you know, if you're going to just sit there and bash out 100 BD calls or something like that, it's difficult to be the first person to pick up the phone. For some people, like, it is tricky. And I think if it's in a buzzy, vibrant environment, like, it's so much easier, and it becomes a lot easier for people to do that. And then it's kind of infectious, you know, it spreads throughout the office. You like, they're making a really good call, I want to make a good call, you know, like, that was a brilliant call. And it's lovely when you hear people being like, that sounded brilliant, like, what was it that you were saying there? or when you hear other people on the floor using kind of sound bites that that you've been saying previously, and then you're kind of like, yeah, look, it was cool, was it? It worked, didn't it?
You remembered what I said.
Or whatever people say, you hear three people saying the exact same thing, like
it must be good though, because like obviously people that don't know, we recruit at a very high kind of mid-senior to kind of
like mid to senior
level. So obviously when you're working at that level, we are placing like extremely like. Some of these salaries, like, sometimes make you feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
And, like, you're putting people into those roles. So, essentially, you're changing that person's life. Like, ridiculously for the change, aren't you? So,
you do. Recruiting at an ultra senior level, like VP and, senior director or C-level or, whatever, when you're talking about, like, £400,000, £600,000 salaries, that's great. Most of the impact that has is on a business at that level, though.
Yeah.
So, like, when we've placed people and they might have a $3, $4, $5 billion revenue responsibility, that one person, okay, not on their own, but them and a team of 300 people is responsible for bringing in like $5 billion to that business. You're like, Jesus, that's a lot, yeah. But the kind of personal benefits and that you get. I mean, the people at the senior level, they're already at a senior level. Yeah. They're already earning crazy money.
They've got their jets.
They've got exactly. They've got like a house in London and a house in Paris, and all this kind of, and so it's not so much for them there that they're like, oh my God, this has made my career or something like that. It's normally the more junior end of where we recruit that you get the most, I guess, personal satisfaction out of candidates.
Yeah, or that jump from someone that's earning 60 grand to 190.
Like the opportunity to do that, exactly. And there was an example of this like a few years ago where I placed a guy, and I remember he was a really, really lovely candidate, and we placed him into a role, and I think he was earning something like 65k when we found him, and then he went over and he ended up earning, I don't know, like 70, 80k, something like that. And when he'd accepted the offer, he'd gone through, and he was over the moon. He was really happy. And I spoke to him. I was like, how's everything going on? Like, just confirm your start date, all this kind of stuff. And he was like, thank you so much. This means so much to me. And I was like, it's what I'm here for. It's what we're doing.
It's my job. Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but you don't realise, like, because of this, me and my wife are going to try for a second child, which we couldn't afford before, and I'm actually going to be able to afford to like take my family on a like a summer holiday this year, like a proper one. Yeah. Like previously they'd gone, not that there's anything wrong with it, but they'd gone like caravanning somewhere in the UK, and he was like, I'm actually going to be able to take my family on like a proper foreign holiday and have like a really, really good time. And it was like wow, that job move, it's a fantastic opportunity, and the guy's still there. I mean, this was like 3-4 years ago. He's done really well.
But that must be like, another question was, what would you say has been a really big high which isn't money related? Something like that is
absolutely
prime, isn't
things
it?
like that, because that's when you're like, you kind of sit back on it and you go, I'm actually changing people's lives. Yeah. It's not, we talk about and we do a huge amount of international relocation as a business. So we are literally moving people from all corners of the world to wherever our clients, where the role is, and there's just a huge amount of people which I don't really think take into account. If you're going to move from Korea to Belgium, like how different are those two places? You know what I mean? It is literally life changing, and
I think that's where it frustrates me slightly when, like we said at the beginning, why do recruiters have that dirty word recruiter, when the level that we're operating in, it's nothing like that. Like you said, we are literally changing that person's life to go on holiday, try for a second baby, which they thought they wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah. It's very different though. I would say that we're very, very fortunate to work in the markets that we do and kind of, deal with that. I mean, if you were, and again, not that there's anything wrong with it, recruitment is all the same. It's just different in some aspects. If you were doing, I don't know, accounts payable in Oxford, okay, you're not really changing people's lives that much. I don't think, like you might get them their dream job, you might get them, a job which is really going to help their career, and that's absolutely fine. And I think that's why you end up with some recruiters kind of having a bad name, because it just becomes very transactional. There are 1,000 of those people in this location. I've just got to find one of them. I will do anything I can to find that person.
Well, when we're placing people who are building chips that they're so small that it's sensors that can smell potential cancers.
Yeah, that's one.
That's mental.
Recent, it's
like,
just
that's unbelievable.
It kind of boggles the mind, really. And you go, well, okay, that's great, and we understand roughly how it works. Obviously, we don't know as well as the engineers. But you go, wow.
That's gratification.
That's crazy. And as well as that, when you see, when you see these things actually kind of in real life, it's all well and good, having a conversation on the phone about it and, doing all this kind of stuff. But it was like, remember when the fingerprint sensor thing came out on the iPhones?
Yeah.
We were talking to a company that sells fingerprint sensors, and they sell a sensing technology there. And I was speaking to a guy over in the States, and he was responsible for the Apple relationship. This was a few years ago now. And I was going, what are you dealing with Apple for? And he's like, oh, wait, there's some really, really cool stuff coming out. And then when I ended up eventually getting that iPhone, I was like, oh yeah, that's what so-and-so was talking about. And it's really weird to then kind of see the product in real life.
When kind of in the background stuff's happening.
Yeah, all this stuff's been going on for all these years, and yeah, it's crazy to kind of see the stuff in real life after that. That's kind of that makes you sit back and go, Jesus, this is life-changing stuff. Like,
so that's okay. That's well and good. Like highs, like this is amazing. Like I'm earning this money. I'm seeing people learn from me and do great things.
And this is why loads of people think recruitment's for them.
Yeah. But what they don't see is the other side of the coin.
Yeah, exactly.
So we know it's not plain sailing. Like, as we said before, like the first 12 months of recruitment, put it bluntly, can be pretty shit. Like people actively will be like, my first year recruitment was awful. Why has there been times, in the beginning where you were like, you said, I'm pretty good at this, but was there times where you were like, I can't do this? I saw a stat yesterday that said 1 in 3 people in their first year in recruitment stay. That's it. 1 in 3.
Well, if you look at kind of relatively widely quoted industry average stats of like 2 in 3 recruiters will fail. Yeah. You go like, wow, okay. Now, that failure, I'm sure that failure is not necessarily a high point. So there are certainly loads of lows.
Cool. So if you go back to your first year then,
yeah,
was there times where you were like, shit, I can't do this. I really can't do it.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But why? Let's get down to it, Harley.
Oh, because you just don't. Most people don't know what they're capable of. That I think is so true of so many people. If you were to compare people like on their first day in the business to like a year later, you go. Yeah, wow. But look what you've come from. Look who you were when you joined, and look what you're doing now. Look at your capability. Look at your abilities there. It's just crazy. And so, like, for example, when I first joined, I was saying earlier on, I was looking around the room at these people, and I was going, I am never going to be anywhere near as good as them. Like, you've got to be crazy. They're just like aliens. I can't do that. And it's very, very easy to do that. And I did that, and I know loads of other people did that. And then the classic one you get is, oh yeah, well it's all right for you because you're really good at it, or you can do this, that, and the other.
You've done it for 8 years.
You've done it for 8 years, yeah. And you go, yeah, but there was a time when I hadn't done it for 8 years. There was a time when other people were a year into the business or 6 months into the business, and they didn't know what the hell they were doing, like. And that's just that kind of crisis of confidence is quite common. But I think like the skills to be a recruiter, or whatever it might be, one of them is resilience. Yeah. You really do have to be that. And it's all too easy for when there is a low for example, a deal falls out, you know, a candidate that you think is absolutely spot on gets rejected at a final interview, or, you know, the hiring company won't budge $1,000 on a salary, and so a deal falls apart, and you're like, no, you know, they're the absolute lows. They're just a terrible.
And as well, you're probably thinking, well, if that deal goes through, then my commission is X, which means I know I can then buy Y, and then that falls through. You're like, shit, I can't buy that no more. You've already planned it.
Crap, I've already bought that. Like, I've already, you know, done that.
What do you say the main reason is why people fail in recruitment?
I don't think it's for everyone, and in fact, I don't think recruitment's for most people. Yeah. If I'm honest, I think you have to. I call it like lateral thinking. So it's very easy, and depending on the kind of role that you're in, you know, depends on how laterally you kind of have to think. But if you're recruiting a candidate for a role, okay, you might speak to 30, 40, 50, 100 candidates, whatever, okay? If your only objective is to find your 3 or 4 candidates for that job, yeah, you're relatively linear in your thinking. You're not lateral at all. You know. Whereas if you're speaking to those candidates and you're saying, okay, what are you interested in doing? This isn't right for you. That's fine. Yeah. I'm not going to put the phone down on you. But what are you interested in doing? What would be interesting for you? What is going to pull you out of your job that you're in at the moment? You know, that kind of stuff. If you start then thinking about all these different possibilities, you know, what other jobs going to bring you in the future, what kind of roles are open at your current business, who else is hiring in your current organization, you know, all this kind of stuff. You know, who else in your team should I be speaking to? Who's the best software engineer you've ever worked with? You know, unless you can think laterally and think that there are 1,001 outcomes on every single call, yeah. If in your mind the only outcome is they're either interested in my role or they're not interested in my role, yeah, okay, you'll probably make a few placements. Yeah, you'll do that, but you'll do it the hard way.
The good thing is, like, that's great you're saying that, and I think it's testament because that's how you and the other management team here train the guys to do that. But if other companies don't do that, is it down to a support level that they're not getting that and they're just left? There's so many other outfits out there where you come in, you sit down. You've got Bob next to you that doesn't really want to train you.
Yeah, because it takes him away from his billings.
Exactly, and he's like,
going to earn like 10 grand less commission a year.
Derek, like, CRM.
Yeah.
And they might have an ops team, or if they've just got Jackie in the corner who doesn't really want to show her either because she's busy doing HR stuff. No offence if your name's
Jackie.
No offence, Jackie. But do you know what I mean? It's like, that's sometimes a struggle. Yeah. That's definitely... I know people that are doing recruitment who've said that. They just didn't get the support level they wanted.
I think support is incredibly important. You know, training is incredibly important. I will not take anything away from that, okay? And that is so true. You know, if you are going to get into recruitment, if you are going to look for a job in recruitment, talk about training, you know, try and get the support. But then, like, on the flip side of that, I am a personal believer in the fact that most of it has to come from yourself. Like, okay, the training can't come from yourself, but you've got to be the one thinking, okay, that didn't work. Why didn't it work? What can I do differently? What can I say better next time? How can I word this differently? How can I get what I want out of this call? You know, and that... So let's say there's someone listening and they're like, they could be like a year into recruitment, and they're at that wobble stage. Yeah. They're like, I've blanked for 3 months. My line manager's just like looking at me like they want to throw me out. And I'm just like, shit, I don't know what to do. Right. What would you say? Apart from say, come here. Well, apart from that, like...
Hello.
Although if you blank for 3 months. No. Look, it does happen, okay? And it happens to so many people. And it doesn't mean that you're a terrible recruiter. It doesn't mean anything. It might just mean that the company's not right for you. It might mean all of these things.
How do you turn that around?
It's kind of like...
Is it mindset?
Yeah, it's hugely mindset. But don't blame everyone else. Yeah? Because the moment you blame everyone else, you can't fix it, really. Yeah? Whereas if you sit there and you blame yourself, it sounds really so bad, doesn't it? Like, blame yourself, it's your fault, you know. But, you know, the majority of it will come down to something you've done or haven't done or have said or haven't said or have brought up or haven't brought up, or, you know, whatever it might be. Do some self-reflection, you know, work out if you did work hard enough, work out if, you know, you did cover all this stuff off. Like, I had a thing with a number of the guys in the office recently, and I started out by making a relatively kind of broad statement and said, look, if a deal falls apart, it's your fault. And they were like, what? Like, no way. The hiring manager, like, they interviewed other candidates. Right, okay, did you qualify that the hiring manager was interviewing other candidates or not? Yes or no? Well, no, I didn't. Well, whose fault's that then? You know? Yeah. Like, it sounds so...
Cover all bases.
Yeah, it sounds so harsh. Like, you know, it's always your fault if a deal falls apart. And it's kind of meant... It's predominantly true, I think. But then, as well as that, it is... you know, meant to encourage some form of self-reflection about, you know, did I do this to the best of my abilities? Did I do this the way I should have done it? Did I do this in a way which isn't going to work? Did I, you know, that kind of thing. And it's very, very important that you reflect on yourself and what you're doing before you then just start throwing your CV out to Rex or loads of other agencies and saying, you know, oh my God, you know, the training was terrible. I didn't get any support. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. Take a minute, have a look. Did you do the best job you could? You know, and then, okay, a lot of the time you will have done. And sometimes, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. Like, that's fine. But you should allow yourself those mistakes. I make tons of them. Like, some less now, but, you know, to begin with, you kind of come off calls, you're like, why did I say that? Like, what was I thinking, you know? And, you know, you are allowed mistakes, but be honest with yourself when you've made them, and then do better in the next time round.
I think also some people struggle to ask for that support.
Yeah.
Even if the support is there, some people feel afraid to ask for it because they think people will go, does that think my manager thinks I'm not good enough? So then they're going to think, we've got doubts about Billy. Then.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to have to get rid of him.
They asked me how to format a CV properly, or they asked me what I should say to this hiring manager.
Because all companies do things a lot differently.
Yeah,
and
completely.
If you're used to doing something a certain way and then go somewhere brand new and you don't know what it's like, ask. Or I've seen that loads of times.
Yeah. And I think there's two camps here. There's like new consultants where you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't know if you put a new consultant on the phone with a hiring manager to brief a job, they'll come off the phone like, yeah, I've briefed the job. Brilliant. What is it? It's a sales role. Where's it based? Don't know. You know? Okay, that's a bit of a dramatisation, but it's exactly that, you know? Yeah. And then, you know, so you don't know what you don't know. You don't know all of the things that you should be asking. And that is a training issue. I get that. That's fine. But then after you've run a few deals and they've fallen apart because you didn't qualify the role up front properly, and you're not then qualifying roles better off the back of it, that's something to do with yourself. You haven't learned, you haven't reflected, you haven't kind of improved and dealt that. Yeah. Then you've got the second camp of like experienced consultants, and they won't ask for help because they think that they're expected to know what this is because, you know, oh, I've been doing this for 2 or 3 years now, I should know everything about recruitment. Like, you don't. No one knows everything about recruitment, you know. There are literally like industry legends, like people who've been doing this for like 30, 40 years. They don't know everything about recruitment. Like, and even if they did, like, I'm sure they wouldn't realise they did. Yeah. You know, constantly asking questions and constantly trying to learn and better yourself is exactly what you need to be doing.
So what would you say would be 3 tips for people then working right now in recruitment? Any level. So stuff that would help them develop, make more money.
Just for example, if you like getting into recruitment, just be prepared to work really, really hard. Okay, it is not a fun fair. You know, it is not a come in and lounge about the office for a few hours. You know, make a few calls, bugger off home and collect a 10k paycheck. That's not how it works. If that's what you're thinking, oh my god, if that's what you're thinking, just don't even apply. Just go and get another job somewhere else. Honestly, like, don't waste everyone and your own time. Just don't do it. Just work really hard. And I think people that, you know, even that are a few years into recruitment, you know, they kind of it's very easy to take your foot off the gas a little bit and go, oh, you know, I've got it now. I know what I'm doing. Don't do it. You know, push on. You can be better. Yeah, you can definitely, it's so cheesy, be a better version of yourself. Like, but it is so true.
Yeah.
Secondly, is really like, ask for help. There's no shame in it. There's really, really no shame in it.
Why do you think people don't ask enough for help?
It's embarrassing, isn't it? It's embarrassing not thinking, not knowing everything for a lot of people. I think everybody wants to seem like great, and everybody wants to seem like they know everything and they want to get on with it. And I think some people almost feel like they should know everything. Like I said, with experienced consultants, I think that's a part of it. But yeah, don't be afraid to ask questions. If you're asking questions and your hiring manager is literally just telling you to piss off, then all right, there might be an issue with the with the business or the manager or something like that. But fine. But don't be afraid to ask questions. That was it. The only stupid question is the question you didn't ask.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cheesy, but it's so true. And I say that to a lot of the people here, like when they're going, oh, can I ask you a question? It might sound silly, but, and you go like, it's not stupid, is it? Like, it's silly if you've asked me the same question 10 times, right? But yeah. So work really hard, like. And sometimes that might mean long hours. Sometimes that might mean, kill it, no distractions, just smash it for the day, week, month, whatever. The second one would be, ask questions. And like the third one I would say is like, don't be afraid of failure. I think that's really, really important. I think there's so many people, and sometimes, all right, they've got a legitimate reason to be afraid of failure because their job's sitting on it. They might be on a performance improvement plan or something like that, and they're like terrified of failure because if they fail, that they might get fired or whatever. But don't be afraid of failure, because if you constantly sit there and think about failure and you're afraid of it and it bugs you, you're just removing all of your focus from the positives and the things that you've got to do and all the the good bits.
Your mind's all over the place.
And it's not really a 4. It's kind of like a 3.5. But on the flip side of that, celebrate your wins, celebrate your positives. I think certainly in like low volume, high value recruitment environments, there aren't many deals, but the ones that you do get, they're worth a decent amount of money. If you're waiting for your, to celebrate your positives and your only positives are a deal, well, you're going to spend the majority of your time waiting for a positive or, sitting there going, oh my God, I've not had a positive for ages. Yeah. Celebrate your wins. I came off the call. That was a really good call. I had a really good briefing call with the hiring manager. I got exactly the right candidate that I wanted, Yes, I got three of the 4 candidates interviewed. I did all this good stuff. Don't just sit there and go, brilliant, I got a deal, that's my celebration point.
And it makes you feel better about yourself.
Exactly. And it's like, positivity breeds positivity, and, I think that's so important. Like, so many people sit there and I go around to some of the guys and go, how's your day been? And they go, oh, I've had a pretty crap day. And you go, okay, why? What did you get up to today? And they go, oh, well, I got a briefing call for this hiring manager. So, right, you've got a job on and you've briefed it. You've spoken to the hiring manager. How's the job? The job's great. Right, so you've got a great job on your desk and you've had a crap day. Right, yeah, okay. Well, I only found 2 candidates for this role. Right, okay, you found 2 candidates for this role. Yeah, but I've got 3 more calls booked in tomorrow. Right, so where's the negative there? Like,
yeah. Some people were lucky to do that in a week.
Yeah, like, Jesus, some of the roles that we hire, my God, if I found 5 candidates in a week, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that kind of celebrate the positives and that I think is so important.
Yeah. Okay.
Really. There's a million other things, of course, but like, I like those.
I'm sure we'll do another podcast on tips for recruiters.
You might want to get someone else to do that.
Yeah, definitely someone else. Okay, so to end then, what would you say is your biggest career high to date? Because there's got to be loads. But one that really stands out is like this was unbelievable.
We broke the biggest ever placement fee in the business. That was quite a good one, because that was like, I've done it, we've done that. We've done that. Like, that was pretty cool. I liked that. And other than that, it's seeing somebody who's come into the business, and honestly, when they joined, they didn't really have a great background. Like, they were good, don't get me wrong, and they came actually really strongly recommended, which is partially why we hired them. But seeing them come on and like do their first deals and things like that, and you know, when maybe other people have doubted someone and then you've helped to prove them wrong, that was fantastic.
It's like a proud dad moment.
Yeah, it is a bit.
Yeah.
Oh God. But yeah, those really, I would say.
Well, Harley Lorence, thank you very much for coming to the first Honest Recruiter podcast. It's been a pleasure. Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, you know what? It's actually been really, really fun. I've really enjoyed it.
I'm sure you'll be on many more to come.
I hope so.
So this wraps up today's podcast. So be sure to comment and like if you're listening on Spotify, through Apple Music, on YouTube, any of the platforms. You can comment, share, go over to our Facebook, our LinkedIn page, check us out, and be sure to listen to next week's podcast. I've been Billy, and thank you very much for listening.
Cheers, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Honest Recruiter podcast. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and even subscribe. Keep your ears peeled for the next episode.